In this video, we're going to look at how we can patch ESX and ESXi systems using PowerCLI 4.0 U1. So what I've got here is I've got a virtual center with 4 ESX hosts, and they're all running ESXi build 164009. And so basically they're all identical at this point. On the side, I've downloaded this patch called 2009-07001, which actually upgrades the firmware of ESXi to a later build. So the goal is really to take that patch and apply it to all of these ESX hosts automatically. So here we are in PowerCLI. Let's take a look at get VM host, and we can see those same hosts there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch into the data store browser called VM Store. We take a look here, we can navigate into the data center, and when we look here, we can see all the data stores that are accessible to all these ESX hosts. Now, one of these data stores is called NFS, and it's actually accessible to all of these ESX hosts. Within here, I've created a directory called patches, but right now, the directory is empty, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the commandlet called copy data store item, and I'm going to give it the path of that patch that I have locally on my desktop. And I'm going to tell it to copy that locally into this data store directory, and I'm going to give it a -recurse argument as well. Now, when this is done, we're going to have this patch staged in a place that all of these ESX hosts can see it, and so it will be very easy to patch all of those ESX hosts at the same time. The patch is about 60 megabytes, so it takes a little while to actually upload that. But once we do, again, it'll be very easy to deploy that to as many hosts as we wanted to deploy it to. All right, let's take a look at what has happened. So what we've done here is we've copied in this patch to the local directory. And you can see we indeed have a folder of that name. We can also take a look inside and just use tab completion here. And one important thing we can see here is there's a file in here called metadata.zip. So let's take another look at our hosts. And what I'm going to try to do first is let's just try to apply this patch to the first host that I've got here. So let's take this particular host, and we have a commandlet called install-vm host patch, and we can give it an argument, a -host path. And the way this works is you always start it out with vmfs volumes, and then you give it the name of the data store, which is NFS in this case. You give it the path, and now we also need to include this patch name, so I'm going to just copy that over, and then also the metadata.zip. So if you want to install a single patch, a patch to a single host, this is how you can, this is the basic format. So let's run this and see what happens. Okay, so what we see here is the host needs to be in maintenance mode in order for this to actually work, and I didn't bother to put any of the hosts into maintenance mode. So the way we can do that is we can say get VM host, pipe that into set VM host with the -state argument of maintenance. Okay, that's going to go through and set all of those hosts into maintenance mode. Now, if you're in a DRS cluster, you want to get VMs evacuated, you can use the -evacuate argument on set VM host to have all those VMs migrated off. In my case, I don't have that, so I'm not going to bother. So now, let's go back, and so basically I'm going to tweak this a little bit so that I can actually patch all of these systems at once simultaneously. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find a little variable here, and I'm going to say get VM host, pipe that into for each, and I'm going to say install VM host patch. I'm going to give it the same -host path argument as before. I'm going to say -vm host of $_, which will refer to that specific host, and I'm going to say -run async. And the one thing I forgot to do, if you use -run async, that will generate a task, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to store that in my tasks array, which I set up on this line here. So what's going to happen here, hopefully if I've done everything right, is we're going to get 4 patch tasks running, and that'll all get stored into this tasks array. We can also take a look on the client, and we can see, yes, in fact, we do have 4 install jobs running. Now back here in PowerShell land, we can say wait-task on this array of tasks. And so what that's going to do is it's going to let us know the progress of these jobs and also the results of that. So we can see it both on this side and on the PowerShell side. So this is a good way if you want to apply tasks to a large number of objects at the same time. This is a good pattern to use. Set up an array, run a bunch of jobs asynchronously, and then that array can be fed directly into wait task. Okay, we're starting to see some results coming through, and what we're seeing is a warning that says the system needs to be rebooted for the changes to be effective. Not a big surprise considering that we're upgrading the firmware of this ESX host. So let's go ahead and wait for all of this stuff to finish up. Okay, there we go. We've patched all 4 hosts pretty quickly. I think the nice thing really is that if you have more hosts, as you say you had 40 hosts or 100 hosts or something like that, the syntax of the code doesn't really change all that much, provided that you can stage this patch in a way that all of the hosts can see it at once. So let's take another look at our hosts, and we'll be able to see that these guys are all still in maintenance mode, ready to get rebooted. So the way we can do that, we also have another new commandlet in U1, which is restart VM host. So that's a nice, easy way to reboot an ESX host. And so we can go ahead and say, yes, confirm rebooting all of these hosts. And again, we can switch over to the client and see all these guys getting rebooted. So once all of these are back in maintenance mode and ready to go, we can basically set them out of maintenance mode, bring them out of that. And the way we do that is just using set VM host again, and we can say state connected. Okay, so that's going to go through and reconnect all of these hosts. And when we do that, we can see that basically the build number has been updated to 181.472, and basically these guys are patched and ready to go. So that's basically the basic formula for patching through PowerCLI.